And get started. I have right at 6:30, and so I want to thank everybody for joining us. This is an update for our parents in regards to some things that we've experienced over the almost the first two weeks. Tomorrow will make our first 2 weeks of school, and we wanted to just bring an update, primarily letting you hear a little bit from each of our principals in regards to some things that we experienced both last week and this week. And then also maybe just a little bit of a preview of some things that are coming up. So certainly want to give them time to do that. Real quickly, we'll do introductions. I'm Travis Brock, Superintendent of the School District. And then I also have joining me Erica Chandler, our Communication Director. And if you haven't noticed by now, she's published a link in the chat feature. So if you have questions, concerns, comments, that's a place where that can happen. She'll help moderate a Q&A session at the end of our session here. We also have our technology director, Adam Jasinski, who will bring a little bit of information for us, but then also he's available to answer some questions too that might be related to technology. We got all four of our K-12 principals with us. So we have Dr. Deanne Myers, our high school principal, have Dr. Jason Buck, our middle school principal, and then we have Dr. Christine Powers, one of our elementary principals at Gotch, and then Dr. Tina Bean, our elementary principal at Maynard. So thanks to them for joining us. They'll each have about 4 to 5 minutes of updates to bring you, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with just a little bit of insight into week 1 parent survey results. We wanted to take a pulse on how some particular items were going for our parents, and I wanted to just briefly share what we learned from that feedback. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now in regards to let's see here. Go ahead and there we go. Back up one slide. So I'm going to go ahead and talk just a little bit about our survey results. But before we get to that, just want to reiterate, there are some things that we really are trying to stay top of mind as we go throughout the school year. These are things we brought to you during our roadmap to reopening sessions. And so just want to make sure that all of these things stay in the top of our mind as we go through the school year. And then in our week 1 survey, it certainly wasn't meant to be exhaustive. We just wanted to get a quick temperature check on a couple areas. You can see what some of those areas were, from teacher communication to how the learning management system, Canvas, is going, essential learning, so lessons and assignments, students' daily schedule, and then availability of assistance. So we got over 600 responses during week 1. We are going to do the same survey, which will be released tomorrow, just to see if we're making progress in certain areas and making the right adjustments. So we had pretty good equal participation. So about every school had about 25%, owned about 25% of those 637 responses. And so that was good to see. And then also we had pretty even participation in regards to parents who have kids that are going to stay with us online throughout the school year versus parents who will send their kids in person when we make those arrangements. So that was pretty good representation as well as far as what that breakdown looks like. That's representative of what we anticipate going throughout first semester. And so this is a look at what I would say are by far the 2 highlights of the feedback we got. The purple bars that you see going from left to right are responses that were either very satisfied or satisfied with the areas of teacher communication and availability of assistance. So the yellow bars are those that registered dissatisfaction with those areas. So really appreciate our commitment to trying to, of our teachers, to try and reach out to kids and parents on a regular basis. And it looks like that's being received pretty well. Likewise, we know that the way we're starting the school year, there's going to be a need to provide assistance. And so the availability of assistance is also definitely something that we want to make sure we keep as a priority. So those were 2 areas that came out really well. Two other areas that we looked at were essential learning and students' daily schedule. I still think that this is, given how we're starting the school year, I think these are pretty good responses. Nevertheless, we want to continue to make any type of improvements and tweaks to this that we can. And so you can kind of see how that broke down in regards to overwhelmingly a lot of satisfaction there, but certainly maybe some areas that we can make some improvements. And then lastly, looking at our learning management system, Canvas. Once again, overwhelmingly a lot of satisfaction, but as we can try to do anything we can to make it more familiar and make progress there, we want to do that as well. I also highlighted some themes when the parents were able to register some open-ended feedback. We tried to group that feedback into some themes. So on the right side of this slide, you can kind of see what some of that feedback looked like. And once again, we'll use that to make some adjustments as needed going forward. Overwhelmingly, I thought we got a lot of good feedback. The student survey, I'm not going to go through each of those slides, but just know that we are reaching out to our students. We had 140 responses. We're going to try to do a little bit better this next week with student responses. So I really just tried to characterize what some of their open-ended feedback sounded like. Some of it's very similar to parents. The way that those 140 kids rated those 5 areas were also very, very similar to parents. So it looks like our students appreciate the communication from the teachers and the assistance that they're receiving. So that was good to hear as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and just wanted to provide a quick update on these things that we're looking at, week by week to try to base some of those adjustments on. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our technology director, Adam Jasinski, to talk just a little bit more about some internal information we're looking at to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep kids connected and parents connected to the things we've put in place to help learning.
Good evening, everybody. Let me share my screen. So the first thing that I want to go over, the screen that you see here, this is from our Clever dashboard. So this is the dashboard our students are using to launch Canvas and other various apps of the district. I mean, you can see that so far this week, 95.9% of our students have been logging in to Canvas, and we had almost 130,000 logins in total for this week. So not only are they logging in, this is a snapshot out of Canvas. So we can see that there are 419 courses, the number of students, and the number of assignments, discussions, and files uploaded. That is from last week through this week. So not only are they logging in, but they are actively engaged doing things. Our average daily page views range around 150,000 views a day. Not only are they engaging on Canvas, here we can see Google Meet. So this is the video conferencing platform we're using. You can see in the spring that we had around 750 average daily participants. And so far this year, we're close to 2,800 participating in Google Meets every day. The last item that I want to cover is the student support requests that we have received. So far, we have completed almost 95% of the ones we have gotten. Last week took us a little longer because of the overwhelming number of requests that we received and the amount of devices that we had on hand to replace. That's been the number one issue that's taking time, is getting a replacement device to those students that need them. But we're getting closer to about a 24-hour turnaround time. We hope that after tomorrow, as we go into next week, that continues to decrease as the number of requests slow as they come in. So that is all I had to share with you.
All right, thanks, Adam. We're going to spend probably about the next 20 minutes just hearing from each one of our principals. We're going to start with the high school with Dr. Myers and kind of work our way down to Manier. And like I said, each principals share about 4 or 5 minutes worth of information, and that should take us kind of right up to 7 o'clock. And we had anticipated using about 7 to 7:15 to try and field some questions while we're here live, but then also trying to take anything that we don't get to live and then publish those answers and get that information out. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Myers to share some updates with us.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brock. So at the high school, one of the things that we were very curious about was to see those survey results, because we knew what we were pushing out, but it's very difficult to process exactly what you are taking in, both as the parent and what the students are seeing, because of course, this is all brand new to everyone. So we were very pleased to see that communication, availability of help, and the essential learning were rated as high as they were. We did expect that Canvas would not be the most popular item on that survey, and we found that to be true. Of course, that's because it's brand new, especially with high school students who had been utilizing two other learning management systems over the past few years between Schoology and Google Classroom. This would be a place that they had to unlearn what they had learned about those areas and then kind of come back into Canvas. That has definitely been a place that students are getting their groove and doing well with. The student schedules also was a space that we expected would be something that would be a little bit more challenging to communicate, because again, it does not look like high school normally looks like, and the kids are settling into that. They're getting the difference between that on-demand and live moment. Anecdotally, some of the information that I received in feedback that came to me throughout the last 2 weeks has been, one, that advisory is working. Not only are students being able to be identified by their advisors to help with any issues that are happening currently in the moment, but students are getting comfortable with reaching out to those advisors even when they're not in those live moments for the meetings. So advisories have been working through student organization, how to get their schedules together. They've done some question and answer sessions. They're sharing their successes and challenges together. And essentially the biggest and most important thing to the teachers was that they were able to find this moment to both start and end the students' day on a positive note, knowing all the changes that the students were embracing. We really wanted to make sure that they had that positive interaction. And again, we did find that things were much better as we moved through last week towards the end, and then this week, just because kids got used to that. Events here at the high school that have continued, but in a different way, have looked like Cat's Crew. I don't know how many of you have had students that necessarily got to experience Cat's Crew as their freshman orientation or freshman transition, but we have upperclassmen that are welcoming our students into the high school, trying to help them build those social connections and to help them see what all the possibilities are for them to participate in at the high school. We were also able to have a senior drive-through event where seniors could pick up all of their needed materials for senior items like their sweatshirts and the cap and gown order and all of that. They got that information, but more importantly, the parents put together a beautiful welcoming package that they were able to give to the kiddos. They even made a billboard that the kids could stand in front of to get their picture taken that we'll be spotlighting shortly. So it was a good, welcoming, like warm moment for the kids. Athletics and activities are continuing at this moment in time. Of course, we are at the mercy of what the county says we're able to do, but we do have practices that are happening. Students are gearing up. Things are moving forward along that lines. Activities will all still be happening to the best of our ability, but they will be happening in a virtual manner if we are not able to come together. We're looking forward to an ACT and PSAT testing window coming up. That will allow us to get the students in the senior class that ACT score that they missed from the spring. And I know there's a lot of parents who are very concerned with their students having that data point to be able to help them be competitive in both the scholarship world and into being able to get into schools. Speaking of student supports, so senior supports, we have had probably close to 40 individual meetings with seniors to help them get ready for their application processes and to get those things going. We've had 24 seniors who have already requested transcripts for applications that they've put out. We've got a virtual college fair that students will be going to this year. Because it is virtual, we will be able to have all students attend as opposed to just the senior class going. So your younger students will have an opportunity to have some close interaction with the universities in the area and without. I think we have over 80 colleges that are represented that will allow them to engage in that learning. And then we are having our college counselor create some interviews with different universities. So those videos will be pushed out to students so they can have some understanding. I think William Jewell College was recently highlighted, as well as Western Illinois University. We do have some challenges that we're working through and some spaces that we're trying to get better and to make sure that at least the understanding is there for everyone with how to embrace what's going on. So we are working with the effectiveness of our synchronous time, and particularly in reference to the size of the groups that are meeting in any given time. Look for some information in my newsletter on that. That'll come out this week on some adjustments that will be made there. We have been working with Canvas very closely to try to come up with some better ways to have consistency for parents and students as to where to find their assignments, how to turn them in, just making sure that all of us are using it so that you have ease of navigation throughout that. We're trying real hard to make sure we ensure communication on student progress and on what's going on. It's a delicate balance because I don't want to overwhelm your inboxes, but I also want to make sure I'm getting you enough information so you feel comfortable about what's going on. And we have had a very successful book pickup this week because we're working hard to balance that amount of time between screen time and non-screen time that students are utilizing for their learning. That is a challenge, and it will be something we'll continue to work through, and we'll be looking for information from you on how we're handling that balance and if we're hitting the target.
All right, thanks, Dr. Miles. We'll go ahead and transition to Dr. Buck to talk a little bit about the middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. I would say that the feedback at the end of the first week has been extremely valuable. You develop a plan, and until you really see it in action, it's hard to know what adjustments you'll have to make. And some of that feedback has been through the survey, conversations with parents, and individual Google Meets with students, but also just working with the staff. The ability to collaborate with them and just kind of hear what's working in their arena and what adjustments need to be made. One of the big things that's really come out from working with the staff is they're really excited that this has kind of created an opportunity to kind of refocus developing learning opportunities. So some of those activities that maybe we've used for a long time, it's time to reevaluate and what's going to make the most sense for a learning opportunity. We really spent most of the first week helping students connect and trying to develop some of those relationships with teachers. It's certainly different this year, but certainly something we still want to focus on. And really, as we moved into this week, we started moving into more learning activities. The survey results, like Dr. Buck showed, were overall pretty positive. Communication and support and availability of assistance were in the 70 to 80% satisfaction range. I think some of that owes to teachers and staff being willing to spend one-on-one time with students or parents on the phone or on a Google Meet, just kind of to work through some of those issues, or even delivering Chromebooks and hotspots to houses as needed. The other areas, daily schedule and learning essentials, those were in the 60 to 70% satisfaction range. But really, it's when you kind of start working through the comments that the need to be able to customize comes out as something that's going to be extremely important. As Dr. Myers said, for the high school, finding ways to get more synchronous instruction, more live time with small groups is something that we're starting to build in this week. But then on the other end of the spectrum, there are a number of comments about the desire to have more structured freedom, so I can do the assignments and connect it as I need to in the evening or things like that. So we're trying to build in some of those. And then also within the comments was the need for more social time and to try to have a balance between the academic work and the social piece for students. So some of the next steps beyond continuing to work in our homeroom to build those connections, we're going to start including the second step social emotional learning curriculum. So that's something that'll be familiar to families coming from Gotch. It's a program they've used there. And so we'll be ramping that up over the course of the next week and kind of starting to push that out through our homeroom. We've also started doing math support hours so students can get support on math assignments, not only during the day, but also outside of the school day as needed. Next week, so tomorrow in my newsletter, parents will receive a sign up that will link them to after school clubs and activities. Right now, those will be only the ones that are going to be able to start virtually. And that's going to be everything from writing project and book clubs that might seem more academic to things like a chess club, or even outdoor clubs, things that are really just more of a social opportunity. Some of those will be immediately after the school day. Some of those will be available even in the evening. So just trying to provide as many opportunities for students as possible. We're also looking at starting to find ways to bring in students in very small groups that need specific support that maybe haven't been able to engage as effectively from outside the school and might need just a little bit more support to be able to be effective in that way. I think there's a lot of opportunities we've got moving forward over the next few weeks to really build in those synchronous opportunities and try to do as many of those things that we've always done as possible. Unfortunately, we did find out that the middle school instructional athletic league that we're a part of did cancel our fall sports seasons for the middle school. No decisions been made yet on the winter season. We're hopeful that when we can get students back in the building, we can start building in more of those athletics and opportunities like that for students to be both physically active and social. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dr. Buck. Dr. Powers, talk to us a little bit about what's been going on at Gotch.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So definitely the focus for these first 2 weeks at Gotch has been working to increase everybody's comfort level with Canvas. So making sure that students and families have access to Canvas and that they are feeling comfortable in navigating through the various components of Canvas. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody's patience with that process. I understand that the learning curve was very, very steep. I appreciate you reaching out to the individual teachers when you have questions or concerns or can't figure something out with Canvas, and just know that they are doing their best to be responsive to you. And I feel like if we continue to communicate and collaborate and work together, we'll be able to problem solve anything that comes up with Canvas, and it will get better. We're all going to become more comfortable with it, and it will get more efficient and easier for us. Besides Canvas, I would say the other thing for the last 2 weeks has really been becoming familiar with our daily schedule. So one thing I wanted to highlight on this schedule is that every classroom, grades 3, 4, and 5, has a guaranteed synchronous time to start the day. So that social emotional learning block at 8:30 for each class is a guaranteed synchronous time. So teachers are with their classes live at that time. Starting, at the start of school last week, teachers took time to do some different activities, build community, get to know the kids, to have the kids get to know, who's in their classroom and learn a little bit about each other. That social emotional time, that guaranteed synchronous time at the start of the day. Starting next week, we'll be teaching our social emotional learning curriculum, second step, like Dr. Buck had mentioned. And then teachers really using that time to set direction for the day. So to start the day, kids will know what are the other synchronous times that will happen throughout the schedule, so that families know when kids need to get back onto the computer. The schedule really creates a structure, but there is some flexibility in there, and that synchronous time, there's additional synchronous times each day, will be a little bit different. So teachers taking time to start the day so that families know when those additional synchronous times will be. At the end of last week and into this week, we started doing some of our traditional beginning of the year assessments. So that included some of the dyslexia screening that we did with 3rd grade students and our new 4th and 5th grade students. Teachers also taking time to do some one-on-one reading assessments, figure out what students' beginning of the year reading levels are going to be. Our Title I reading and math interventionists use some of that information to finalize their groups this week and their meeting times. So they'll start meeting with small groups of students for Title I reading and math beginning next week. Before the start of the school year, our teachers determine the essential learning standards for each content area. So throughout the quarter, they're going to be communicating those standards to you, and those will be the standards that we'll be reporting on the first quarter report card. So you'll know how students are doing with those standards. So as we move into more of an academic focus, I just want to really make sure that I'm emphasizing the importance of keeping students connected to their class and their teacher, and really encouraging you to just get students to complete any assignments and turn in any work that they can. Information is really so important to our teachers to know what is effective and what is not, and then they can adjust their instruction based on that. So I just really want to encourage you to have students complete whatever they can. Teachers will be doing weekly communications to parents, so you will be receiving that from your classroom teacher. I will continue to do the weekly newsletter to families, so you'll know to look for those 2 communications each week. And then I just want to encourage families to continue to reach out to classroom teachers if you have questions or concerns about anything, so that we can respond to that to make sure that students are getting what they need.
All right, thanks, Dr. Powers. And then we'll kind of wrap up this round of updates with Dr. Bean at Manier, and then we'll move into some Q&A here in about 4 or 5 minutes. So, Dr. Bean.
All right, good evening. So last week, Manier students and families did a great job learning the routines in Canvas. All of our students are starting their day with a Google Meet. This is a class meeting, and these are focused on building relationships and learning the routines of how to access the learning pages in Canvas. After the class meeting, students are accessing the learning activities for the day, and the focus last week was on building those routines and procedures for each content area. Our grade level teams are collaborating to provide the video recorded lessons for reading, writing, phonics, math, science, and social studies, and that's so that students can access those at any time. Students also have a midday check-in with their teacher, and the focus of these midday checks last week was to understand the afternoon schedule, to answer any questions that might have come up in the morning learning. The Manier grade level virtual learning schedule was designed to ensure that we're able to schedule all of the interventions that we have. We have students that participate in math, reading, ELL, special education services. And so we have many students that are receiving multiple interventions, and we want to make sure that these interventions won't overlap in the schedule. But one thing I did want to make sure that you understood is that families have flexibility when creating their own daily schedule based on their needs. So because the lessons are pre-recorded, students can access them at any time and complete them when it's best for their family. So feel free to make those adjustments to your child's virtual learning schedule. Because of the age of our students, we understand that many of our students need some type of assistance to log into Canvas, access the learning pages, and complete assignments. We're already noticing that students are becoming more confident with these routines, and we're encouraging parents to continue to help their child build that independence as much as possible. Please know that the lessons that we're providing may not always meet the needs of all of our students, and we know that. So we know that some of them could be too difficult, it could be too long or too challenging, or maybe not challenging enough. So we encourage you to reach out to the teachers and the counselors so that we can collaborate with you to help provide support and customize the learning and the schedule for your child as needed. So feel free to reach out for assistance if you're finding that it's too difficult or too easy or too much. We'd like to help you problem solve that. Classroom teachers are sending weekly newsletters to parents with essential outcomes for the upcoming week. So based on parent feedback, we'll also be looking at adding some quick tips for parents in the future when they're looking at those lessons in Canvas. So this will include things like what materials might be needed for that lesson their child's getting ready to participate in, or is there an assignment for the day and what that assignment is. And we just want to also let you know that repetition and review will be built into the learning activities that we're providing for students. So students are not always expected to master the content the first time, and we'll be providing many opportunities for students to practice these foundational reading, writing, and math skills. And just like we do in the classroom, we encourage children to try the learning activities and allow them to experience some productive struggle so that they have opportunities to just try and see what they can do with the learning activities. And based on that, this week, we've started adding additional individual and small group live instruction to students' schedules for reading, writing, and math. So teachers are using time this week for beginning of the year assessments. Teacher assistants are supporting student assessment in sight word, and we'll be moving into dyslexia screening. And we'll be creating small group instruction for students based on their individual needs and providing that differentiated instruction. We are using the attendance feature in Canvas just to monitor which students are present at the morning meeting. And this is something for us to be able to look at which parents do we need to check in with to see if they need some support to get learning started that day. So it's not something that will negatively impact your child if they were marked absent for that beginning of the day meeting. We're also monitoring engagement, and we're working with parents and counselors to problem solve what might be causing the low engagement and how we can help. This week we started in-person ELL testing for our kindergarten students. Students came up to the school for one-on-one testing, and we will be moving into scheduling gifted screening for our recommended first graders in the near future. Something exciting that Mainier is doing this year, we're participating in our first ever school-wide book club. So all students and staff are reading The World According to Humphrey, which is actually written by an Affton alumni, so that's pretty cool. So each week we're reading 2 chapters of the book, and we had over 150 families participate in the trivia contest last week. We look forward to continuing to partner with families and provide the best virtual experience possible for our students. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone for those updates, and we'll definitely transition into some Q&A. I'll give Erica a chance to kind of get that organized, and so I don't forget. We also, as part of some feedback that we want, if we are able to schedule more webinars in the future, what are specific topics that maybe you want to know more about. This is something that we can want to continue to keep the lines of communication open. At the same time, we don't want to just repeat the same information that you kind of heard the previous week. We want to maybe dive into any specific topics that you might want to spend some time on. So I definitely want to solicit those ideas for you for future engagement opportunities. And then also, just know that the way we're starting school now, the things we're doing, certainly we all have a vision of things progressing much differently. So, bottom line, we're making the best we can in regards to how we're starting school, but there's definitely a vision of progressing into much different experiences, both in person, and then certainly for those students that are spending or plan to spend their school year primarily virtually, we hope to also continue to make progress with those experiences as well. So as much as I think we've gotten off to a pretty decent start, we also know that every week we've got to be making progress in a number of different areas. And I think there's certainly a shared vision among our the folks that you have with you on this panel, but then also I think in our buildings with our classrooms and obviously I would probably nominate parents for Teacher of the Year right now. So you guys, I know you guys are doing everything you can. You're supporting your kids' learning in ways you never thought possible. So just know that is not ever forgotten, and that if there's ever a chance, or if there's ever a time when people have worked together for children, this is where we're finding out that those things happen. So I can't say that enough to parents, just like sometimes teachers don't get enough compliments. I'm sure parents right now are not getting enough compliments on what they're doing to support their kids' learning, but just know that's not lost on us. At the same time, we do know we need to continue to make progress so that we do take more and more of that ownership of what you typically expect from our staff, our students, and your school district. So just want to make sure everybody knows that. And with that, like I said, we'll kind of try to get some questions answered live, and then do some follow up with things that we don't get to live. So Erica, I'll kind of let you kind of lead us into some of those questions.
Sure. Let's start with how about Dr. Buck and Dr. Myers? Do you anticipate band students being able to meet in person in small groups, maybe outside?
Yeah, I'll start. That's actually one of the things that's on our list of small groups we'd like to bring in maybe over the next few weeks. So we're going to start by identifying students that need more support just to connect academically first, but then from there we'd like to transition into things like band and orchestra, choir, and maybe even some of our clubs eventually could have small group meetings outside. So I think that is definitely in our plan, but it probably isn't at the top of the list. Probably our students that need academic support will be first on that.
Same at the high school. We'll be working with what kind of scheduling we can put together based on how the band teacher wants to interact with the students in small groups, and making sure that those are put together appropriately in the right time frames, and then get some schedules out to the kids for them to start coming together.
Great, thank you. How about, we have a question about when a student emails their teacher, what is the acceptable amount of time for a teacher to respond before a parent steps in to try to help get a response? Any one of you, I'll let whoever wants to answer this one take it. What's your advice?
I'll jump in again. So I've the message that I've shared with my staff is very similar to kind of some of the messages that have been in my announcement videos that I'm sure everybody's enjoying at the middle school. It's important to be able to disconnect. So I tell my teachers that during the school day, I would expect that they would respond pretty quickly. But I do want them to have time away from the screen, just like I do for our students. So if those questions and concerns come in the evening, in many cases, it may not be till the next morning till they get a response. Now, I have been seeing that teachers are responding all throughout the evening, but I don't want them to feel like they have to do that. I do want them to be able to disconnect and be at home with their own families as well.
Great, thank you. You know, we've heard a lot about Zoom bombings across the country, and while Affton has opted not to use Zoom, we're using Google Meet. Adam, can you address what is being done so outside people can't disrupt the class on Google Meet?
Sure. So when we first launched Google Meet, there was a misunderstanding about how the links should be created. We have now gotten that resolved, and we are proactively going in and ensuring that teachers are using the correct kind of link. And there was also an issue with being able to phone in. So that feature has now been disabled. So we should be a little more prepared to mitigate those outside responses. And as I said, we're being a little more proactive now instead of reactive, to ensure that the correct Google Meet links are being used.
Great, thank you. How about a question regarding SSD? How is the district working with SSD to ensure services are reaching students that require additional daily support to ensure they don't fall behind academically?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're working with them on is evaluating the distance learning plans in regards to trying to make sure that throughout certainly this time where we're not in person, that there is regular, I guess, touch points with parents to evaluate what are some services we might be able to arrange in person. And so I know that I think that in getting that off the ground, I think that will get, I guess, more and more refined in regards to trying to pinpoint what are those specific things that a student needs to come in for. And so just like with everything else, I don't want to say that, you know, just in general, things have gotten off to a slow, I don't know what we expected as far as a slow start, a fast start. So I'm not really sure what pace, or whether we're right on pace, behind, or ahead. But I think I would put the, I guess, the processes that SSD is trying to put in place kind of similar to what we're experiencing with everything else. I think they had a vision of trying to identify what those needs are to get kids on site for services. And I think just as we're progressing with everything, learning management system, everything's maybe taking just a tad bit longer than we anticipated. But I do know they're working and have that vision of you know, well before the end of first quarter, to try to evaluate what those needs are and get those services done on site. So I can tell you that that continues to be a shared goal, and we hope to work with parents to do that. And certainly on Affton's end, if it's, you know, access to the building, if it's access to those resources, we want to support that. Just as you've heard our principals talk about some of our regular education students coming on campus for various reasons, we hope to try to mirror that both with special school district and on our end, that continually steps up at a continual pace throughout, you know, throughout first quarter.
Thank you. We have a question from a middle school student, although I think this probably applies to other schools as well. that says, we used to be able to create our own Google Meets, and this was good to spend time with our friends. Why can't students create their own Google Meets anymore?
I can take that one. That's because there can be a lot of issues when students are having unsupervised video chats. So that's why we are set up where Google Meets should be set up in a way where all videos are supervised by a staff member.
So secondary to that, we did see a lot of survey data come back from parents and also from students wanting more synchronous time with their friends, or live time online with friends, or seeing other students, seeing other faces. Could a principal or two chime in and tell us what your plans are to add more of that to the school day? Are there plans for that?
So at Main Year, I know many of our teachers have started arranging just social opportunities for kids to get together in a Google Meet. So it might be a lunch bunch where a few students are together and have opportunity to have unstructured conversation. It might be a time where they're drawing a picture together. So we are trying to build in opportunities for social time between students.
Great, thank you.
Similar at Rogers, I think that's kind of the focus of what our clubs are really going to be. They all have different topics that they're built around, but I think they're really just going to be more based on social interaction for kids.
Thank you.
At the high school, sorry, Erica, I was just
no,
going to add it.
No, go ahead.
We are looking very, very strongly towards the traditions that have been events that kids look forward to as their high school career. And we're looking at how we can adjust those to either a virtual world or based on whatever level we're at and safety of coming together. So you'll see the different things like students are considering doing homecoming decorations on the parking lot so that the community can see them, as well as so that they can safely come together, 6 feet apart together, but come together and still get those same traditions in and that express that school spirit. So we're looking at multiple ways, not just virtually, but small group, virtually, and then kind of teaching kids how to do that on their own as well, so that they are, those that need it more are getting that as well.
Similar to what Dr. Buck talked about at the middle school for Gotch, we're trying to figure out ways to offer some of the before and after school activities that we have in the past, so the different clubs that kids would be able to engage in. So we're trying to figure out what that could look like in our current situation, and that would create some social opportunities for our students.
Great, thank you all. That's very helpful. We do have a couple questions, several questions actually, on Canvas. One that's been asked a couple times. As a parent, if you have access to Canvas, do you also require access to Clever? Are they two separate systems or one and the same? Adam, I'm going to call on you again, please.
They're two completely separate systems. So Clever is just kind of the dashboard for our students and teachers to be able to access resources easier without having a second login or another website they have to go to. So no, as of right now, parents do not have a Clever account. It's all through Canvas.
Thank you. And we'll take this moment to promote. We have organized a new webinar opportunity for next Wednesday. I believe that's September 9th at 6:30 p.m. And it's what parents need to know about Canvas. We know there's a lot of questions and maybe some overviews that could be helpful to navigate the system. So we will be adding that and sharing more information probably tomorrow about that webinar opportunity. And with that, the last burning question, I think, Dr. Brock, I don't know if you can give us a preview or any highlights of things you think might be changing in first quarter and as we lead to second quarter.
Yeah, I think that, we definitely have, I think, a shared vision of actually putting into action some of our in-person plans that we have published. And so I definitely want folks to know that. And I think over the next couple of weeks, we certainly will learn a lot in regards to that being done largely outside of St. Louis County. What can we learn about safe practices that are working in other school districts? And I also think there's going to be a push to provide a bit more precision in regards to, student data related to COVID. So break down by age groups so that really what I see is a trend in all districts going forward. And certainly if there's the ability to do things prior to the end of first quarter, we want to leave all possibilities open. But certainly as we move beyond first quarter, I think all districts are going to need to see the need to make decisions, possibly school by school or grade level by grade level, or maybe at the very least elementary and secondary. And so I definitely think that it wasn't, necessarily the wrong thing to do to look at making decisions that are very similar across the district and get the year started in this manner so that we can provide the safest way to start. At the same time, I think we're continuing to learn a lot about maybe some things we can do at certain levels. And a lot of that is not only based on the age of the child, but based upon where do we have some advantages with class sizes, where are we set up a little bit differently. And I think we need to look at that. And we need to help parents understand where we might have some opportunities in one place, but we may not have those same opportunities in another. So I definitely think that what parents can expect as our staff, as we progress through getting feedback and input on what future plans might look like, I think they're going to look a lot more customized, a lot more personalized. And I think we will not be able to talk about the district decision. We'll probably have to talk about decisions by building, by grade level, still being very, very safe and very healthy. And we're already starting to make sure that our classrooms are ready. So we're already making sure that we've got those preparations of equipment. Now that I think we're continuing to learn more and more each day, we're going to do an even better job of getting those classrooms set up so that whenever it's the right time to put that into action, we're very well prepared. So that's what I think parents can expect, not only in Affton, I think across the county. Those are going to be sentiments that come through with every school district.
Great, thank you. I did put the link in the chat as well if anyone else has questions. If it's specific to your circumstance or you want to make sure you get an answer, please include your email address there. And I think that's about all the questions we have this evening that we can get to, unless anyone else has anything else.
Nope, I just appreciate everybody's engagement. We had, I think at the largest crowd we had tonight was about 200. So just thanks for that input. Things we didn't get to tonight, we'll do our best to get that out to folks. And just know that we definitely view this school year as a marathon, not a sprint. So if we thought we could get all of the answers taken care of in the first week or two, we would. And just know that as much as it's a marathon, we also get the pleasure of dealing with changing circumstances from week to week. And so that's what's going to make this definitely a journey that we're all going to have to stick together and just understand that we're all making the decisions as best we can, while always keeping health and safety as our first priority. So I know this isn't easy on everyone. No, it's not easy on families, but we're willing, I think we're all committed to sticking with it, sticking it out throughout the school year. And anything that we don't get right, we're prepared to make corrections and try to get it right sized for everyone. So that's all I'll leave you with. And like I said, appreciate our panelists tonight. And then also thank you to all the parents, and we will certainly won't be the last time we talk, and we'll keep after it. So thanks everyone, appreciate it.